We went back to Bucknell eventually so that Dave could finish up his education, and he was working for his master's degree. He had his basic degree, but he was working for his master's. And he worked on that, I guess, about a year. And then he got a job at Sylvania. He had two possibilities of a place to work. One of them was down south, and the other one was at Towanda. And they were about identical. Well, I think of that exactly identical in their salary offer. But we decided we'd rather be closer to family than being down south by ourselves. It was like you hear of the Triple Cities, which is Binghamton and New York and a couple other cities. Elmira.
Endicott.
Yeah, Endicott.
Vestal.
Yeah, Vestal. Yeah. It's a very similar situation between the two places. But we preferred to be closer to home. And so Dave accepted the job at Sylvania and started working there. He worked, 32 years? I can't remember. He was involved in getting patents with some of the other engineers there at Sylvania working together. They got patents on the different procedures they used to manufacture what was wanted at that time. Then I got a job when we were living in Syracuse. And one of Dave's sisters is either Elaine mainly, I think, came to our home, and she took care of Alan so that I could go to work for a short period of time. So those are some of my memories. If you have any questions.
Tell about some of the things that you did for work while you were married and had kids and you were a homemaker and so on. Some of the things that you did, and then after us kids left the home. Like you sold things, you were nutrition aid, just...
Yeah, I was pretty much a homebody. I didn't work in a factory after I had children. Working in a factory when we were in Rhode Island, that was quite a shocking time for me. Farm girl, country gal, going into this city environment, and they're after you all the time. Your co-workers, they want you to join the union, and they didn't behave themselves ladylike, would you say, when the higher-ups would come walking through the work area. Oh, they had to pull up their stocking or something like that. They were not ladylike, to say the least. And that was a shock to me. That's not the way for ladies should act. But that was...
And they stole things too, right?
Yes, one of the girls wanted to take home this extension cord, I think it was. It was a long extension cord. And it was winter time. And so she coiled it all up and she had it under her winter coat. And as we were leaving for the day, she would say, "Does it show? Does it show?" And of course, the staff would think that her slip or something like that was what she was referring to. She was referring to what she was stealing. So that was a shocker. Then when we were at Bucknell for that 1 year, I remember taking Alan up to the campus, and he would chase the squirrels and have a good time doing that. Then when we came to Towanda, I guess the exciting thing, one of the first exciting things that happened is when Reg was born. I had to go to Sayre from Towanda. We lived on 2nd Street, and we had to go to Sayre to have the baby. So we were on our way to Sayre. I was in labor, and there was a car following us as we headed for Sayre. And he kept tooting at us. He kept tooting at us. And finally, Dave pulled over and stopped, and the fellow said, "You're losing your gas tank." So Dave got down and looked, and here it was. It was almost disconnected from the car.
Mm.
So, well, he crawled under the car and got some good old twine, heavy-duty twine, those orange twines you see along the road when there's activity. And he got it tied back up, and off we went to the hospital. And we got there. Thankfully, I made it to the delivery room and had Reg without Dave having to deliver his second son. So that was exciting.
Yeah. I wanted you to talk about you selling things and your other jobs.
I tried some things once my kids were in school, and it was probably a lot of it before Dan was born. I tried different things. I was a Avon dealer. I worked at that for a while, but I didn't like bugging people every few weeks to buy more. It just didn't fit with my personality, so I gave that up. And then after a while, I was a Tupperware dealer. And I did that, but then you were supposed to get parties booked from each party that you did. You had to get somebody to book a party so that the parties would keep on going in an endless fashion. I did that for a while, but then I didn't like bugging people to have a party. I'd be very happy to do a party for them if they would like, but I didn't want to hound them to book a party. So that wasn't my cup of tea. Is there anything else I can?
Well, you were nutrition aid.
Oh yeah, I was a nutrition aid for a period of time. And that was interesting. Basic nutrition. We went into the homes of lower income people, and some of them were skilled in cooking and a lot of them were not. So you'd go in and you'd help them get a meal or show them different things that they could do and so on. Remember, I was making biscuits or so. Anyway, it was a product that had yeast in it. And we mixed it up, and then it was time for me to go on to another customer. So I explained that when the such and such a time was gone, then you put it in the oven and bake it. Well, she decided she wanted to go to a ball game. So she took off and she just left whatever was raising. And for some reason, that didn't work out very well. Oh, and then another day, I had an appointment scheduled at this one house. And when I went to the house, knocked on the door, and they opened the door, and here room was filled with cots, packed full of guys. What do you do?
What did you do?
I just left very quickly.
Yeah.
Then another family that I went to work with, the man, he was real proud. He had to show me this handgun that he had. And I bawled him out thoroughly because he had that there where his kids could get a hold of it, and who knows what he would have done with it.
Hmm.
So I was on my high horse. About some of the experiences I had when I was working.
Tell about the foster grandparenting that you did at school.
Oh, yeah. Then when Dan was in, let's see, that was before Dan was born, I guess.
No, when
No,
you were
it was
granny?
After Dan.
That was only about 10 years ago.
Yeah, that was recently.
Huh. Well, anyway, I was an aide for the teacher, and I would do what I could to get the kids involved in what the teacher was trying to get the class to do. And I remember there was one cute little fella. He also happened to be Down syndrome, and he had a individual aide that worked with him. And he was a very cute little guy.
And even after you were a granny at the school, if the kids would see you in the grocery store, they'd run up to you and hug you and say, "Granny."
Yeah. Yeah. There were some challenges.
So, got a few more minutes to talk about Dan or any of us other kids.
Who was your biggest challenge child?
Oh, we know.
Reg.
Reg.
What were the things that he used to do?
Oh dear, you'd have to ask him.
Well, didn't he used to bang his head on the floor when he was
Oh,
mad?
when he was really little, yeah. I don't know why, and I never knew why. And also not only on the floor, but on the glass in the door. The front door had these little squares with glass in each square. He'd get mad and he'd bang his head on the glass and break it.
Ooh,
Wow.
wow.
He used to hold his breath too, didn't he?
Yeah, I may have whopped him.
I think you said you threw a cup of cold water in his face so
I-
he would gasp.
yeah, that's entirely possible, but that's one solution to the problem. I don't know what set him off. Alan used to play with a little girl across the street from where we lived. It was Ann Stelford. You probably don't remember. Well, you weren't even,
No, I wasn't born then.
yeah.
Didn't you have a child who used to sit in mud puddles?
Oh. Now.
For some reason, Alan, Rita liked mud puddles. And every time it rained, she would like to go out and sit in the mud puddles.
Well, tell about Steve and his winter coat in the summertime.
Oh, yes. He would want to wear that winter coat even when it was really hot outside. He would put that coat on. We have some pictures someplace that shows him with his winter coat on in the summertime.
And Jim was your amazing hunter. Squirrels and rabbits and
Yeah,
besides deer.
and Ellen liked to go hunting too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Reg liked deer hunting.
And Caroline was your other problem child.
What do you mean?
Right.
I have no
in the
idea.
teenage years.
She and I locked horns a lot.
I can't imagine over what.
Clothes, for one thing. Yeah, exciting times.
And we all took care of Danny once he was born.
Yep,
We all helped
you were
with him.
very loving brothers and sisters to Danny boy. No, Danny was at church from about the time he came home from the hospital on.
Yeah.
The church family was very loving and comforting, encouraging. I was pretty devastated because we already had a Down syndrome in the church family, and she was not a pleasing personality. Do you remember Martha?
I remember her, yeah. She was my age, I guess.
Yeah. What did she?
Almost.
And I remember when he was born. Dave got me there before the water came over the road. It was during the big flood in '72. And then he hurried home to be with the rest of the family. And Dave finally got a phone call to me in a couple of nights. And I told him on the phone about Dan being Down syndrome. That was hard. But, and I told the doctor, and the doctor didn't tell me. I had Dan, and then the pediatrician came in and said, well, he's fine, but there's just one thing we want to check out. And I said to him, is he Down syndrome? He said, yes. So that's all. When I was training as a nutrition aide, part of our training was that older women, and nowadays it's even younger ones, could have Down syndrome babies. So that was the Lord's preparing me, I guess.